For generations, Ireland has been a beacon of hope, a place people from all over the world have dreamed of calling home. And for many Irish people, it's the only place they've ever wanted to be. But what happens when that dream becomes a nightmare? What happens when the place you love, the place that's woven into the very fabric of your being, starts to feel impossible? In 2025, for a huge and growing number of people, this is the stark reality of life in Ireland. The postcard image is cracking under the pressure of a relentless series of crises that are making daily life not just a struggle, but a battle for survival. Today, we're not just looking at the headlines, we're going to delve into the data, into the stories, and ask the difficult question. Why has living in Ireland become impossible as things keep getting worse every day? Let's start with the foundation of any stable life, a roof over your head. In Ireland, that foundation is crumbling. To call it a housing crisis in 2025 feels like a dramatic understatement. It's a multi-generational catastrophe that is actively pushing people out of the country. The numbers are staggering. In the 12 months leading up to May of this year, national property prices surged by nearly 8%. This marks the 23rd consecutive month of price increases. The median price for a home in Ireland has now hit an eye-watering €370,000. In Dublin, that figure is far, far higher. In the Dublin suburb of Blackrock, the median price for a home is a scarcely believable €770,000. Think about that. For the average person, the average family, how is that attainable? The simple answer is, it's not. An analysis from early in the year showed that to live comfortably in Ireland, a single person needs an income of between €40,000 and €50,000 annually. But even with that, homeownership is a distant fantasy. The homeownership rate for people aged between 25 and 39 has collapsed to just 7%. Let that sink in. A decade ago, it was more than 3 times that. So you rent, right? Well, that's where the nightmare deepens. The average monthly rent in Dublin for a 1-bedroom apartment is now a minimum of €1,800. For a 2-bedroom apartment, you're looking at around €2,500. And that's if you can even find a place. The market is so saturated that applying for a rental is like entering a lottery, where hundreds are competing for the same prize. We've heard countless stories of people applying for over 50 listings and not getting a single viewing. The supply simply isn't there. The Economic and Social Research Institute, or ESRI, has warned that no major increase in housing supply is expected this year or in 2026. They estimate around 33,000 new homes will be built in 2025, but the central bank says we need 52,000 units every single year just to meet demand. To make matters worse, planning permissions for new homes have plummeted, with apartment approvals falling by a shocking 39% last year. This isn't just an economic issue, it's a social disaster. At the start of this year, homelessness in Ireland reached a new record high, with over 15,000 people, including thousands of children, without a home. People are living in overcrowded conditions, forced to stay with family in situations that are unsustainable. This is the brutal human cost of a broken system. But the squeeze doesn't end with housing. The cost of just living in Ireland has become a crushing weight on the shoulders of ordinary people. While the headline inflation rate has eased recently to around 1.7%, that doesn't mean prices are going down. It just means they are rising a bit more slowly. The average monthly cost of living for a single person, and this is crucial, excluding rent, is now over €1,000. For a family of 4, it's around €3,500 before you even think about paying for your overpriced home. Let's talk about energy. We've all felt the sting of soaring electricity and gas bills. In July of 2025, the average price of electricity stood at over 34 cents per kilowatt hour. The average annual electricity bill is now estimated at over €1,800. One of the country's main suppliers, SSE Electricity, hiked its prices again in April, adding nearly 50 cents a day to the average electricity bill. On top of the wholesale costs, households are being hit with rising grid fees, carbon taxes, and VAT, which together make up nearly half of the final bill. Then there's childcare. For many families, this is the expense that breaks the bank. While the government has announced a new cap on fees from September, which is a welcome step, the costs remain a huge burden. Before the cap, many parents were paying far more, and the new system will still see a parent paying nearly €200 a week for full-time care, and that's after subsidies. For years, businesses have been warning that the high cost of childcare is a major barrier to attracting and retaining staff. When you add it all up, groceries, transport, utilities, the average net monthly salary of around €2,800 doesn't stretch very far. One report in February noted that the average after-tax salary in Ireland covers living expenses for about 1.4 months, a razor-thin margin for most people. It's a constant state of financial anxiety, where one unexpected bill can plunge a household into crisis. And what happens when you get sick? When you need the support of the state's healthcare system? For hundreds of thousands of people in Ireland, what you find is a system at its breaking point. As of April 2025, there were more than 713,000 patients on active hospital waiting lists for scheduled care. That's a number so large it's hard to comprehend. Over 600,000 of those are waiting for an outpatient consultation, the first step to getting the treatment they need. The government has allocated hundreds of millions of euros to tackle this, and there has been a small reduction in the number of people waiting for the longest periods, over 12 or 18 months. But the fundamental problems remain. Ireland has fewer hospital beds, doctors and nurses per capita compared to many other European countries. The system is battling chronic staff shortages and the ever-increasing demands of an aging population. For the person living with chronic pain, for the parent worried about their child's health, these aren't just statistics. They are days, weeks, months, and even years of uncertainty and anxiety. A report from the government itself in June acknowledged that the percentage of the population with unmet medical needs has been rising. It's a silent crisis that affects the quality of life for a huge portion of the population. The daily grind is made even harder by infrastructure that is creaking at the seams. The Irish Fiscal Advisory Council, the state's own economic watchdog, delivered a stark warning this year, stating that Ireland lags behind other countries in health, housing, transport, and electricity infrastructure. Anyone who commutes in our major cities knows the reality of this, the traffic congestion, the overcrowded and often unreliable public transport. The government has announced a massive €200 billion national development plan to try and fix these deep-rooted issues. But these are long-term projects. For the people stuck in traffic today or waiting for a bus that never arrives, that future feels a long way off. So what does all of this mean for the soul of the nation? It means that the Irish dream is dying. It's being replaced by a sense of disillusionment, and for many, a feeling of being left behind. We're now seeing something deeply worrying, a new wave of emigration. And this time, it's not just driven by a lack of jobs. In fact, it's happening during a period of strong economic growth. Young, educated, talented people are leaving Ireland because they see no future here. They are leaving because they can't afford a home, because their salaries are swallowed by the cost of living, and because they want a better quality of life. They are leaving for a better life, a story that is tragically familiar in Irish history. Is a paradox. On one hand, reports show that Ireland is one of the happiest countries in the world, with high life expectancy, and the government's own well-being reports show positive trends in areas like income and job quality. But these reports also admit that this progress is not felt evenly, with single-parent households, younger people, and those in rental accommodation faring much worse. That's the heart of the issue. The top-line economic figures, often skewed by the massive success of multinational corporations, mask a deep and painful reality for a huge segment of the population. An economy that works for corporations, but not for its own people, is failing. Living in Ireland in 2025 has become a daily struggle against a tide of impossible costs and systemic failures. The beauty of the landscape remains, the warmth of the people endures, but the promise of a secure and prosperous life is fading fast. And until the foundational issues of housing, cost of living, and healthcare are treated with the national emergency level response they demand, the question will remain: who is this country really for? And for how many more people will the only answer be to leave?